Okay, you're live. I was having trouble with YouTube earlier, so hopefully this works. And this video will be longer than I thought it would, in fact. Some of these pictures I found when I was looking for other ones, and they should have been in the previous video, but the previous video was already super long. So I guess if you are the one person who actually watches that and makes it to this one, yay. And if not, if you're only watching this one, then spoiler alert, Easter eggs or whatever. So this one's supposed to be a bit more Halloween focused. I don't have a ton or really hardly any actual Halloween art. But as I was saying in the last video, it's, we're kind of in transitional time, right? For some of us, the weather is still warm. And so maybe swapping out the decor to be all autumny feels a little premature this time of year. Or maybe you think it's not worth it because Christmas is right around the corner, even though it's still a ways away. Almost 2 full months, in fact, or over 2 months, ish, somewhere in there. But so to start with, and leave the other stuff toward the end, because different videos, I would rather show the main thing first and work, backward, because I figure you're going to watch. But this case, I'm building. So if you're really, really interested in the more specific stuff, skip ahead. Okay, right. So for starters, and I have different stuff. It's all clumped around. It's not all together. But certain things aren't Halloweeny, and they're not typically even autumny. But if you have other motifs and things like boat art, you can maybe get some boat art that's more moody than other boat art. And I have some other stuff that I really want to show kind of more than that. Here we go. And some of them are buried and I'll have to come back to them. And I did promise in this video to show more of the kind of Irish, Scottish kind of stuff. Yes, I did dig out some of that stuff. Okay, so this is not boat art, but we're close. Let's reorganize a little bit here. Okay, so another example of boat art. Okay, a little bit more typical. These are my pictures, so they're not all good. Some of them are copied from how-to books, and some of them are copied from photos from the internet and whatnot. But like this one has almost some autumny colors in it back in the background, and then purple. There's been a little bit of discussion of purple being a Halloweeny color, and I don't believe that's true. I think that's mostly because of the Count from Sesame Street was purple, but I do have another Easter egg, stuff like this that you can find. So it is purple instead of orange, so that they have the guy wearing orange. So I guess there's a little bit of gray area as far as purple goes. So I guess I'll discuss purple a little more further. Or something like this is just not a very good watercolor. So it's kind of a lot of black in it, kind of gray in the water, but it's still supposed to be a summer scene. It's just not done that well, right? So maybe it's moody enough-ish, for kind of end of summer kind of thing. And I probably have some more boat stuff. Well, this one for sure. Like something like this is. I painted over what the sky was with this gray because I didn't feel like it was finished. Something like this is definitely more winter than autumn. Also, even though it's moody. And so bringing us to similar but not the same because I'm positive I have more boat stuff in here. I don't want to spend half the time just looking for pictures. So showing pictures. This stack. I have smaller ones and larger ones. So just kind of scoot. Oh, that one. Yeah, I'll show it. Righto. Okay, moving right along. Something like this, of course, being not boat, but beach, but also being kind of autumny. This was in one of those how to paint paintings, and so one of my few watercolors that almost looks correct. but definitely somebody else's picture, so I can't like put this in a gallery or anything. But that's still more, even with the gray skies, still late summer-ish. Whereas some stuff like this, this one I kind of copied from the book on that kind of composition, but it does have some of the purple in it, and it does have some of the autumny tones. So if you were doing beaches instead of boats, this one again with the purple sky, kind of a moody evening kind of vibe. But if you're doing your house dim, and I'll mention this again later too, a lot of darker art won't show up if you're, trying to do a moody kind of haunted vibe in the house. So if your paintings aren't lit up and they're dark paintings, then they're not going to, look like much. This one also meant to be kind of more of a foggy effect than a necessarily autumn or even winter effect, because you can get fog at the beach in summer too. This one, night, of course, so night being just night again. Halloween-y, sure, winter-ish, sure, not perfect. I did this a long time ago. 06, there you go. Whereas this one was more recent. This was like last autumn or something. I stopped dating them a long time ago, but the old ones still have dates on them. And then this one's supposed to be Ireland, right? Or it was kind of just meant to be cliffs, and then I decided it was more Ireland. So the whole Celtic holiday tradition thing. This one from 09-ish. 06? I feel like this one would have been older than that one. But this was painted over something else though too. This was originally 06. One of those horrible portraits I did that I just sort of swapped over. Excuse me. Oh, the needle messed up. So going in a different direction now. Boats under the mountains. I was going to show this. Speaking of boats, something that would work. I have a whole bunch that are castles that would look better than this, but this is just an example. Like if you had sketches like this and you framed them, it would be better if they were done over in ink instead of leaving it just raw graphite. So one of these days I might ink something like this in. Of course, I did a painting from this picture before, but that's a still from a film. And then kind of like, I don't know, Deserted Beach, I think was also a still from that film or a different film. Don't remember. But then, Italy, Europe stuff, something like this would be okay if you can tell what it is. Again, I would have to go in and really clean it up. I never did this painting. I don't know where the original photo is, but it has a lot of notes on time codes or something where I was looking at something. I don't know. So I don't know what movie that was from. Not important now. Or of course, if you could take something like this and make it, more macabre, I suppose. It's just one of my copies of some gal from somewhere, probably another movie or something, or a catalog model. Who knows? But so I would say definitely black and white drawings would be good. This one's unintentional Halloween colors. Of course, I did this in high school from a National Geographic photo or something, and had it up in our teacher used to have us frame everything in cardboard mat, so the corners were covered before I even painted the thing. And of course, it's not actually paint; it's ink, thinned ink. So it's not actually a watercolor. Another failed watercolor, but another theme I'm going to come back to. Okay, certain things we can, actually, let me show you that one in a minute. Certain locations we can kind of erase almost entirely, but not totally entirely. Like Middle Eastern subjects or India might work. I don't know if this is Middle East or Europe or kind of some parts of the Middle East are Europe, like Turkey or whatever. Japan. As I was saying in the last video, I showed a few. I have some other ones. Japan is tricky because most of the stuff in Japan that makes it to paintings is spring, so everything's pink. This one has a tiny bit of late summer, autumn because I have the one kind of maple in the back. And this was from a calendar, I believe. A lot of my things were from calendars, as I explained. It's kind of an easy source of material to find if you just want good, high quality photos that are usually decent resolution. Okay, the whole, and then we get, oh yeah, some, well, we'll show some of this junk. Oh, missed that one. So here's another gloomy beach, dark gray and purple sky again. So if I want to do my house winter, winter ocean motif, I can, because everybody wants the blue sky with the perfect wave. They don't buy this kind of stuff very much, but I enjoy painting it anyway. Like something like this, for example, is definitely more spring or summer. I have a bunch of impressionist copies. This is not one. This was an old one I did from my neighbor's yard. He had one of those kind of overgrown yards. This is technically spring probably too, but it does have more yellow in it, so you could maybe call it autumn. Again, not technically Halloween. I'd have to add some jack-o'-lanterns or scarecrows or something in the background. Again, with the whole dark thing, I have to say that for later. I'll do him, yeah, okay. Slightly out of order. Speaking of impressionists, not an impressionist, but like an impressionist, of course, we have Vincent. And this one, of course, being purple, but also with orange. So it's not really black and orange, but it is kind of, nobody's going to buy it for that price. But I took it to art shows before. So yeah, I mean, something like that you could get away with ish. And then of course, copies of his stuff is sometimes more autumny than others, but this one, of course, being way more winter than October. But then something like this, it does have orange in it. And this, I'm having even more. Right. So those ones are, kind of famous. Things that I've done for the experience of doing it, I guess, more than actually selling any of them. Because they're all still here. With price tags from that art show that didn't pan out. Okay, so anyway. So here's another one, kind of more of a summer, but you do have the purple in it. Here's a way more autumny one. Or it could be summer if those are California poppies. And another one with kind of moody colors. So a fair amount of, stuff like that. Harkening back to these kind of things. Get them over with. Since we're talking about impressionist, landscapey kind of stuff, like this one, the leaves are yellow, which should mean autumn, but the rest is green, which reads more spring than autumn. Not a painting that anybody's ever looked at twice. Here's one on the newer, flimsier canvas, which, again, more of a summer field kind of vibe than a total autumn vibe. But if I could stick a scarecrow in the middle of it, right forward, front and center, take all the attention away from the tree and the deserted barn. I had talked about birds quite a bit in the previous thing. These are not the newer, better ones, but I just grabbed them because they were in the thing. But again, an ocean kind of thing, I could modify this and make it more seasonal-ish, but not really meant to be. And this one a little creepier. I could make like some ravens or something similar to this instead of gulls, perhaps. So yeah, these are more, serving suggestions rather than, paintings I expect you to copy or whatever. Speaking of boats, like here's an autumn boat that actually did have this coloration, but again, not one that people think of boats in autumn necessarily together, kind of a odd juxtaposition. Not a lot of people really kind of gravitate toward that because they want summer boats more, or they want autumn not boats, covered bridges and all the stuff I showed in the previous episode. And these, a couple were in the previous episode, but I'm showing them again on purpose because I said I would. This one, like I said, you could really make some scarecrows or some kind of stuff. This is definitely a lot more the correct color ways that I wanted to call attention to. And wrong one. That's in this stuff. I think I showed this one, well, more of the right colorways, but also Japan. Like I said, kind of hard to do a lot of autumny Japan. Most of this much more geared towards spring. Here it is. This one I think I showed, yeah, kind of a spooky vibe without actually being anything even the correct necessarily season. This is technically a summer picture, I would say. But there you go. Oh, and of course this one is also technically a summer picture, but with the sunflowers, could be like more late summer-ish kind of thing. And those are the books that I wanted to plagiarize. Not literally. So almost there, almost to the next topic. I showed this one the last one, really saved them. What I was saying earlier about certain locations, like this one's India, not necessarily an autumn kind of thing at all, not really a Halloween thing, but kind of a, I don't know, like an old worldy alternate architecture, you could have something kind of going on with that plays off of that a little easier than a condo, right? That sort of thing. Going back farther. Well, this one's just my copy of a Vermeer that is kind of moody. And so, again, not one that necessarily people will gravitate towards because it's kind of dark and gloomy and whatnot. But it's not necessarily autumn specific, although I did use kind of some playful colors, and she's in kind of a dark outfit or whatever. Just, stuff that can kind of, again, you'd have to have a brighter contrast or something so that it doesn't get lost in the dark of the house. Same with this, something like this. Like she has a white dress on though instead of darker, but the background being all kind of dark. It's not really necessarily Halloween or anything, but it shows up a little bit. I mean, you might not be able to read the face as good as see the dress in a more dimly lit room. Similar to that would be just more abstract kind of stuff. And I have two of those. Where are the other ones hanging? Where are you hiding? I just had it. There it is. Okay, so these are both kind of, I had leftover paint probably and did these at like around the same time, but this is just an unfinished nothing. Again, you'd barely even be able to tell what it was, but if you just wanted something weird for your wall aesthetic, anything kind of along these lines might work. Again, this would be in, purple, not black and orange, but some purples and blues. Just they meant to complement each other a bit without actually saying anything. Whereas this one, I think I showed in the last video. Again, technically spring because white roses, but with the other colorway. And these, you could do something with these to make them more Halloweeny, something like this. The kind of uranium glass and the red. Whereas this is a little bit trickier. You'd have to maybe switch it from watermelons to pumpkins. This was from somebody's thing sometime, and I did it pretty fast. And then I did the flowers to go with it later. A long time ago, but they're not dated. So getting a little more current. Current meaning things that I did more recently. This was from an old 60s book. This is one of those Easter eggs. This is technically summer or late summer. I didn't really quite finish it. The sky, I was kind of playing with the ideas of it more than kind of positive what I want to do. And of course, having the sky that bright takes away from the other focal points. So I'll have to dull that down again later and not let it be so much like the original. Because, of course, his was probably huge and had all sorts of neat detail. And so it made sense to have all that yellow. Whereas mine, of course, it's like not quite perfect. Something like this. This is another one from one of those old How to Paint in the 60s books. But this is Austria, I guess, or the Alps. So something like that, if you were doing like an Oktoberfest vibe, you could have Tyrolean theme stuff or Bavarian stuff. But again, that's not like Halloween, but that is seasonal. But of course, you can't tell what this is. It looks like more of a Mexican Pueblo or whatever. And what it actually is, but another fast little thing that I just did. So save that. This, on the other hand, these are just some semi-abstract things that, again, should have been in the last video, but they do read a bit more. Well, that one more than this one. This one. I have to figure out which side is the top. I need to put an arrow. I was trying to be impressionist again on purpose. It's not quite winter, but it is kind of dark for this time of year, maybe. I think I was copying a calendar photo on the wall. It was off. And this one was, something similar, and it looks better from farther away because it doesn't look as all smeary. But definitely autumn, and pine forests and all that kind of thing. And these were both from last autumn or the year before, I forget. So let me go back. Couple bigger ones that I forgot about, but back to the gloomy beach idea. And I'm not doing part 1, part 2, part 3 with the card this time because I know they're all over the place. And no apologies, I'm just grabbing them as I grab them, trying to sort them in some logical order. But this is Laguna at night, which is, again, not necessarily autumn, and not necessarily winter, but it does give it kind of a colder, more almost austere vibe or whatever than happy beachy Summerland. So I kind of liked that idea, even though nobody will ever buy it. Same, this is also technically Laguna, but in a stormy winter vibe. And this was from one of those watercolor books. But this time I didn't do it in watercolor. I did it in acrylic, but got the dimensions wrong. So I cut off the top of the turret thing, but that shouldn't matter to anybody. It should only matter that I made the sky all gloomy and dark and stormy instead of pleasant and blue like in the book. Because I wanted to be different. So coming back to, just kind of generic. This is actually Spain, but the colors are kind of interesting. So something like this kind of screams autumn. And I was copying the colors pretty accurately, I thought, at the time, without making it terribly realistic. It's kind of cartoony, but that could read autumn or late summer for sure. This one used to be brighter. I tried to clean it up and kind of ruined it, but this is my idea of sunflowers several years ago, and then touched up last year. And I don't really like all the touch up that I did, but again with the impressionism thing. But that, totally more than some others. Right. So coming back to Japan and coming back to the questionable purple, I have like a street scene from Tokyo where it's almost abstract. We're getting kind of to the what is it kind of thing. Again, a dark house. You might be able to see some of the yellow. It might not really show up very well. This one was kind of a fun, weird one where I painted over something else and I just get it quick and lazy. Again, not Halloween, but kind of I got the samurai guys during a battle idea here. I don't know. I was like Japan stuff. These ones are not realistic again. Kind of just sort of spur of the moment, whimsical a bit more. So finally coming to another Japan. Well, this one's technically, I was trying to do Japan, but I think I ended up making it a little bit more China, but then I tried to add leaves and then blah, blah, blah. But anyway, this is meant to be late summer for sure with the red. The red leaves and not so much the glare. And the sunset, this is really old. I don't know what, 2005. Yeah, so this one's 20 years old. Back when I kind of had an idea how I wanted to paint stuff, but I was kind of making up stuff out of my head, so the realism was not really there. The boat I copied from a how-to thing so that I made the junk sails as accurate to theirs as possible, but the rest I was just kind of winging it. This one, on the other hand, is from an actual photo of Tokyo Bridge. So it is Japan, but it is purple. It's as purple as you can get if purple is your idea of Halloween. Again, it's kind of dark, kind of gloomy, kind of a sunset thing. Not necessarily autumn or winter, but another one that nobody will probably ever buy. So whatever. And so then that brings us to, I would say, the castles. And I'm putting most of the castles in here. And we're almost at the castles. Yeah, we'll do those after. We'll do these first. Okay, that's fine. So, like I said, I have other drawings of castles, and I had one that I gave away that was Scotland. That was a reflection. It was kind of similar to this execution, kind of unfinished, and can't really tell what it is. And this one had some very expressive clouds, but if you must know, that was actually a surfer on a wave in the background. So that's actually the wave. And I started painting over it and just haven't really finished it. Tubed 2012. So there you go. Some guy had actually commissioned 4 paintings and then never bought them. And I didn't think 2 or 3 of them were even that good, but he said he liked them all. And then he still wouldn't pay me for them. So one is Hawaii and 2 were these surfers, and I forget what the other one was. But anyway, so there's an unfinished castle for your castle pleasure. And here's Burr Castle, I believe, unfinished. A little bit late summery with the yellow. I got to go back and really fix some parts of this. I started fixing some parts of it, and then I kind of got lazy and gave up. That was done from an actual photo, of course. And so I was trying to get that done. And then this one, this would technically be spring. Nobody's going to think about this one in autumn at all, but it is St. Patrick's Cashel in, what, not Tipperary, the other county, right? I forget. Is it Cashel County? I don't know. So anyway, but I thought it was Tipperary area, but I could be wrong. But yeah, there's lots of famous, but I need to fix it. There's a lot of dead spots, and in some of the photos it looks more gray, but the gray wasn't reading, so I kind of went over it with brown to play off the kind of dark areas and that kind of thing. And I made the dark areas extra dark because some of the other stuff wasn't reading. So I can get in close and see where it means well. Maybe it's halfway done. I don't know. So when you're talking about Ireland, instead of castles, I'll show this one first. Usually you're talking about cottages and all that kind of thing, right? But this is a townhouse, again, with some purple. It had more sculpted hedges. I was really trying to get all the stones, the interplay of all the stones, more than I was trying to get realistic foliage again. Not really an autumn thing, but it is of the purple trim and stuff like that. I was trying to get a lot more dimensions. This one's more recent. This one painted over girl from 2006. So there you go. So that one used to be something else. And then I added a lot of heavy texture. Whereas something like this, definitely a bit more autumny. I'm not sure if this one's supposed to be Scotland instead, because usually you'll see Ireland all green and Scotland more weather beaten, but Ireland does have seasons and that, so it could still be Ireland. But again, we got some purple, we got some yellow, we got some orange, we got everything we need, right? But this is a copy of somebody else's painting, I think. I don't remember if this was a photo or not. A couple of these, they were paintings, and I don't remember which one. This, let me see that one. Oh yeah, okay. Whereas this is right more Ireland, right? Although this might also be Scotland too. But we're seeing lots of green. We're thinking spring. We're definitely got this exact same type of cottage, but with a roof, except it's not a thatched roof. It's obviously a more modern roof. So actually, while we still have it here, let's we can compare. You can see it's the same idea. And so that's usually, kind of what we're thinking, right? Or this could be autumn though, because you can't necessarily tell that this is Irish. I think this was a photo, not a painting. I don't remember. Another one I did from myself just to practice. This was from a catalog, and I had some other ones of the guy in the sweater. This is one of those famous burial mounds in Offaly or wherever, and or Cavan. But the gal, redhead gal. You got a redhead gal, you pretty much got Halloween. She's wearing like a long cloaky kind of thing and a scarf. So you could really make something like this into a Halloweeny kind of thing a little more easily. And of course, if you like to decorate with people instead of empty landscapes or whatever, then, or scarecrows or whatever. But obviously I put a little bit more time into this one than some of the others, but not perfect and kind of small. So let's get to these a little bit. Also Ireland, but again, now this is the kind of thing that I was talking about in the previous video, and I didn't show these two. Where they play off each other, right? Or some people would take this one down when spring or summer is over and put this one up, right? But of course, again, in a gloomy house, you're not going to know what the hell this is. It's almost abstract again. But they are meant to kind of be a set. And I had some other ones. These were done from calendars, I'm sure. I'm trying to get it to where it's not too much glare, but still straight on. So they're meant to kind of go together. And of course, this one, you have the gray, gloomy sky still. Because, Ireland. I could have made it a blue, pleasant sky. This one you can't see the sky at all, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I could have made it more of a whatever. This one I showed in the last video, I'm pretty sure, and I was saying how kind of indistinct it is. I wouldn't necessarily know if it's Ireland or not. It's definitely not really autumny, but it is moody and stormy and all over again, gray skies and all that. You could change it and make it not gray skies. Oh, we're in the heart of the Ireland stuff now. Okay, this one I copied from a painting or a photo for sure, but it is late summer-y, and they've just fixed their roof. And I don't remember, but of course I did this one for myself again. Also, 2 years ago, probably, I don't know, somewhere in the recent, when I started doing different kind of technique stuff. This one is from a calendar, but it looks like I copied a painting because I painted over another thing. They kind of could go together if I didn't damage it. If I didn't mess this one up so bad, I could make it more impressionist and kind of have them go together a bit more. Yeah, this was from an actual photo, and I went super impressionist with it because I had some other stuff up here that I kind of painted over lazy, but I didn't have enough room to show the top of the hill and the sky and all that. So it's a little amorphous as to what it actually is and all the reflection and all that kind of thing. But I think it still works overall. But it's definitely way more spring, even with the yellow, because those are meant to be yellow flowers, not moody, gloomy, dead hay bales or whatever. Try not to drop your paintings all over the place. This one, I'm pretty sure is supposed to be Loch Lomond, but I saw other pictures where it said it was County Mayo or Galway, one of those. So I've seen it in both Ireland pictures and Scottish cottage pictures. But I definitely copied it not from a painting. Okay, this was definitely from some photo, but I tried to make it a bit more realistic. But then I went back and started making it a bit more impressionist with the sky and whatnot because, as usual, it just wasn't working out. But of course, this doesn't say autumn at all. It's got all gray, green grass and no gray sky. Blue sky, it's a little bit gray in some spots where I added for texture more than to make it look especially cloudy. And then of course I put the rocks, instead of making the rocks gray and darker, I brightened them up a bit so they kind of jump out at you, more than maybe they should, but that's okay. Again, another one I kind of did more for me. So this one though is a copy from a painting. This was somebody else's painting that I copied, and I don't know who that was, but I went even more impressionist with it than he did, or they did, he, who knows. But again, with the purple sky, I don't remember if their sky was purple. I doubt it was this purple, but it might have been somewhat purple to give me the idea, maybe a sunset-ish, but definitely late summer, autumn field with green in the background. And so I like that one, but again, it's definitely one of the more recent ones and nothing dated on the back, but I know this was painted over something else because the side wall is turquoise. So, whatever. I think this was a portrait of this was a portrait of a girl I knew who played guitar. That's exactly what it came out terrible. You're not missing anything. This looks much better. So coming to the part of the Ireland, I'll show that one first, I guess. So obviously the cemetery is very common, the churchyards, the towers, the crosses. This was from another calendar picture, and it was a little bit tricky to kind of get all the details in there and have it read. Again, if you have a dark room, you're not going to see anything except this yellow spot up here, which draws the eye to the exact wrong place in the thing. So, you know, I should really change it and make the foreground more the foreground, but that's how it looked in the calendar. So I just copied it as is. And, you know, obviously didn't do the best job, but, you know, similar, another one that's a stack of rocks. So trying to get it to read as anything other than a blob of dark black mass. I kind of, you know, trying to bring it to the foreground, but the composite, a lot of things look better as photos than they do as paintings. You know, living proof. And even if I was a better painter, I don't know how I would fix this per se, but I'm going to lighten up, you know, the gray in the cross in this part where it'll stand out a little bit more and kind of cheat that corner and whatnot. Although in some parts, you know, you've got the two sides of the wall and that kind of thing. So one part of it should be even actually darker. How much darker can I go than dull brown? I don't know. But anyway, something like this can work if you do it like better than that. Which this one I showed in the last thing. This is a copy of somebody's thing too also as well, but it said Happy Thanksgiving on it, I believe. So I took that out and just made it pumpkins. Obviously, you can make them jack-o'-lanterns if you were going to do something similar to this. Would be the more obvious choice. This was from an old catalog or calendar or something photo. I forget which. Oh, I know what this was from. This was one of those pictures that came with the original printer that I had way back when, and I printed it out and then I did the painting from the printer, and I forget which. It's supposed to go this way, I think. Is that correct? No, maybe. I don't remember. That's upside down. Yeah, I had it right. The box, I think it was supposed to go like that, not like, it could go like that. I suppose you could frame it and do it horizontal because this little pumpkin down here, he likes getting that attention. You could show this way, but I think this was the actual original dimensions. Anyway, because yeah, if you put it this way, now the other pumpkin, oops, where this hand is upside down. So either or. But yeah, we've got gourds and squashes and of course blue. You might want to change the blue to some other color instead of contrasting with the orange. You could make it purple, or you could make it even a different shade of green than the middle ground here. Something like that. You can play with it. This was a copy of another similar kind of thing. It had white. I haven't filled in all the gaps yet. It had a white background, and then I started filling that in, having fun with it, making it more abstract. So I kind of like the idea that you can't really tell what it actually is. So it's just not a total copy of somebody else's picture, but it was a photo, not a painting. Same as the last one. So somebody had put together this still life and done the photo for whatever reason, and I did my own unfinished version of the paint. You can really see a lot of the white spots through here. It's really not finished. And I don't know how I'm going to fill those in exactly. Probably just black or dark green. Okay, we're almost at the end, believe it or not. 43 minutes, okay. I did show that one portrait. I have several portraits that I think could all be in this part if I wanted to make this video even longer, because I think they're all terrible or they meant well. This one I was doing an underpainting, and I meant to go back over it with more, same as that orange with the other pumpkins with the blue in the background. I was going to do more of that kind of thing. And then it came to this point, and I just got lazy and stopped and decided it looked macabre enough that I could call it a Halloween or Day of the Dead kind of thing. And so this is the kind of thing that, again, I think you could get away with for Halloween or Day of the. She's not meant to look this creepy at all. She'll never see this video, so it won't matter. But I know for a fact that most of the women that I've painted in such fashion don't find it flattering for whatever reason. And this one, of course, yeah, I stopped working on it, but it does look a lot like the person, whether they'll admit it or not, even though it's, blue and moody. But originally, this was actually added later because the original thing I had, it was more of a mush thing, similar to that one abstract one I showed with just the colors. It was kind of like that, and then I made a face on top of that, and it was kind of going pretty good. And then I kept changing my mind about the color of the actual. You can kind of see through it, through the white part there. It was orange and blue and pink and all sorts of different colors underneath, and you can really see that edge. So, like, that's what the original colors was, that like bright orange and that kind of thing, and then the green and all the flowers and the face, and then the lips were red. These roses are almost original. I haven't really touched those. One of the few things. And you can see some of the original colors up under here, the red and the orange and the yellow and the green. That's what like the whole thing was originally before I put in all the blue and black and kind of heavy-handed, darkened it up and changed it. And there's some purple in there too. I never really use purple out of the tube anymore. Way back when I used to. That's more blue mixed with purple, I think. That I went over. I went over the original orange that you can still see kind of underneath. That kind of thing. So yeah, this I never really wanted to paint the sides of my canvases. In fact, I didn't finish painting this bottom until I started dealing with different art boutiques and junk where they'd be all like, it's not a frame, you should have to paint sides or put black tape. It's like, okay, I don't know anybody else who's ever wasted as much paint painting the sides of their canvases as I have. But like I said, even from early days, I've always had to kind of do that. So sometimes I try to make it match, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes it just slops up over the edge and goes like that. So if you're curious, like this unfinished part, I would have to go back and add some brown or green to that. Same with it there. There's a whole band of unacceptable white. White being unruly more than any other color in a boutique. Okay. So anyway, so that's my idea of a goofy macabre portrait. And this was a still life that I did from a calendar. I can't remember if I showed this one in the last video. I think I did. Anyway, it's kind of gloomy and moody. I don't know that it necessarily screams autumn or Halloween. It's meant to be dark academia, though, which of course is the title that will come up over and over and over again in some of the decorating videos still, even though I don't know that anybody's actually doing dark academia apart from some dorm rooms. And then there hasn't been any, there hasn't been any ghouls or goblins or ghosts or jack-o'-lanterns or werewolves or anything. But this one, I did mention ravens, right? 92. So this is Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart from way back when. And my one friend said this was the coolest thing ever. I did this out of my head. I didn't know how a chair should look from, the Civil War era or whatever. I knew there should be some kind of candles or walls. I put in an oil lamp that's kind of tiny, almost to scale, and then of course the man himself up in the. But I didn't want to make it too gruesome because I knew I was doing it in a sort of classroom setting. But yeah, so the figures are not all to scale and all that kind of thing. But that's about the moodiest thing I have that was inspired by. There was for one of the poetry teachers, he looked kind of like Edgar Allan Poe before his hair went gray, I guess. And I mean, I guess he still kind of looked like him, but Poe didn't live that long. Um, and every year or whatever, for a couple of years there for Halloween, they'd always have a thing where he'd come and read the Raven to, you know, whoever showed up. So I heard him do the Raven 2 or 3 times at some point way back when. So yeah, that's my collection for now, and maybe I'll have some more next week or something if I try to do some more Sesame Streety kind of Snoopy Charlie Brown on theme things. So yeah, that's like I said, a pretty long video that nobody's going to watch the whole thing anyway. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I know this wasn't much of a tutorial on how to actually paint, more of a how to decorate kind of nudge. It's kind of where I came up with for my thing, my spin on the whole holiday angle. So I don't know if there's a lot of gray area there or not. Let me know.